This is Women Ending War, the podcast where you'll discover that there is another path, that peace is possible, and that the women here can lead the way. I'm Dr. Ilana Stockman. I'm here with Eva Dalek, my co-host. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, Rula. Ahlan. I'm very, very excited to be speaking with you today. As a Palestinian living outside of our Holy Land, I'm really excited to hear about your initiative. And I know a little bit about your very interesting background, and I'm just excited for our listeners to hear from you. So welcome, Rula. Please tell us your story.
Thank you, Eva. Okay, my name is Rula Hardal. I'm a political scientist. I'm a Palestinian citizen of Israel. And actually, I was born and raised in the northern part of Israel, Palestine. And later on, I moved to Germany. I got scholarship to do my PhD. And I spent 10 years in Germany. And when I decided to return back, I decided to be in Palestine, in the occupied territories, in terms of living, as well as my academic career and engagement and daily life. So I joined a Palestinian University, Al-Quds University, 8 years ago, and I decided to live in Ramallah. So I live in Ramallah, although my family is still in the north. And I found myself actually moving all the time between Israel and Palestine, moving almost every day through the checkpoints, because I'm also involved in academic and research work in Israeli institutions in Jerusalem. And about this experience, to live in both Israel, Palestine, and to move all the time and to speak to the people, actually, on both sides, students, colleagues, just people in the supermarket or in cafes or in restaurants, on both sides. It's something that actually reshaped my research interests, but also my personal and political identity and attitudes toward the so-called Israeli-Palestinian conflict. After October 7th, I was scared. I lived through, or during the first maybe 2-3 months, with a small suitcase in my car, where do I have all important documents and my 2 passports, the Israeli and the German. And I was prepared actually for any escalation that can prevent me to go back to my apartment in Ramallah, or any further escalation in Israel when I'm visiting my family, or when I'm doing something in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem or in Haifa, that I have to leave the country and go back to Germany. And that's why actually in November, when the Palestinian board of the organization that I'm leading now suggested me to be the Palestinian Co-Director, because we are speaking about a binational organization, political organization, a land for all, 2 states, 1 homeland. I thought this is the moment to do much more intensive political work than academic, scholarly work. So I decided to take on myself this position, and since then I'm advocating for the political vision that we believe it's the most viable, realistic, pragmatic political vision that we can offer for the Palestinians and the Israeli Jews, and advocating for that actually globally and in Israel, Palestine, on all levels actually. And although or despite the very bad situation, and it's a very bad situation what we are living and what we are living. Yeah, actually, what we are living through since more than 9 months. We see the very narrow, small opportunity. Only taking into consideration that the whole world is speaking again about Palestine and about the occupation and about the right of the Palestinian people for self-determination. The Palestinian question is again on the international agenda. So maybe this is the only one thing that, the only one positive thing that we are.
Is the opportunity.
Yeah, and we can see, or we want to see the opportunity.
Yep.
In new re-emergence of the Palestinian question in Israel, in Palestine, and globally. And that's why we are trying to advocate for a political vision, because without any political vision and without concrete political vision that can advocate the interests and the needs of both people, because if we like it or not, we have a binational reality in Israel-Palestine between the Jordan and the sea. Even two national groups that are in numbers are equal. And I'm not ignoring that these both national groups are also diasporic national groups. I'm not ignoring the Palestinian diaspora and not the Jewish diaspora. And I'm not doing any symmetry between both of them, okay? But still, they influence and they shape the reality of their people here on the ground. So we have a binational reality on the ground. Both people would like to continue living here and have their self-determination in this space, considering it to be their homeland, and we need to find a way to live together, but definitely not the old way that we are living within it since more than 7 decades. And the second point is, and it's not only that occupation and apartheid and settler colonialism and Jewish supremacy that we are living in as a very constructed ideological, legal context cannot continue and cannot last. And it's not only that it's not legal. We see that it takes us actually every time to a much more disaster, and the problem is that there is or there are political powers and political groups in Israel, especially in Israel, that actually created from this apartheid and occupation and Jewish supremacy a political vision. And they are practicing this political vision on the ground, and they are shaping our lives. And they don't care about international law. They don't care about human rights. They don't care even about their people's life. Even they don't care really about the Jewish life and Jews' life. Did you ever expected that an Israeli government can ignore the fact that Israeli people stay in Gaza as hostages for so long time without doing everything, as we know, the Jewish Zionist Israeli mentality, without doing anything or real thing or serious thing or everything in order to get them back? It's something new. So these people who are now in the Israeli government, they don't care about people's life, not my life and not Ilana's life. So that's why, and the third point is actually the failure of the so-called peace building camp and peace building organizations and the so-called Israeli left and center political parties during the last at least 2.5 decades to offer a concrete political vision for the Israelis and the Jews. That's why we want to see this disaster, and we are in a very historic, very, very complicated, dangerous, and historic disaster as Palestinians and Israeli Jews. Even though, although I'm putting this fact on the table, I still see the opportunity that this disaster create for us to impact and to reshape the whole discourse regarding Israel-Palestine and the solution that we can imagine for the Israelis and the Palestinians. And it's not definitely the old paradigms and the old solutions that we tried before 30 years. And here I'm speaking about the last serious peace effort that we witnessed during the beginning of the 90s, the Oslo Accord. It's not only about criticizing Oslo. We had good things with Oslo, but we had also failures. I'm not sure that we have the time to speak about the failures and maybe some.
No, I'd like to focus on the opportunities. It's interesting, Rula, because we have similar background. I'm also a Palestinian with Israeli nationality. I left Israel to study in France, studied political science. The only difference, I chose not to come back to Palestine, Israel. And as I shared with you prior to this call, October 7 just re-engaged me into really, as many of us, it's like, okay, enough playing around. It's serious time. And I think what you mentioned regarding the peace building, the Israeli left, I think the failure of Oslo or of this all this peace building effort is that it didn't tackle the root causes of the conflict, and it was normalizing and making as if we were two equal party and ignoring the fact that the Palestinians were still under occupation. And I think that's kind of in a nutshell what was the issue. And as I mentioned, I launched peace activation in October because I feel like we need to activate peace inside of us and be really honest about our own responsibility in creating what's happening right now. And the dissonance that exists. And I think, as I mentioned, I worked in Belgium, and when I arrived in Belgium, I'm like, oh, that's a model that we can be inspired of. There's two binational communities here living in peace, not necessarily agreeing on everything, but there's two languages, there's two federations. And so when I read about Land for All, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly the model. I'm really, I really see and can feel the ripeness of this right now. And I think, as we say in conflict, often we say conflict brings crisis, danger, and opportunity. And up until now, we've been experiencing the danger of this crisis. And for the 9 months, and now it's time to birth the opportunity that it might bring and the momentum where we are now. We're not, the whole thing brought Palestinian-Israeli conflict into the international agenda, but also I feel like bringing the Palestinian, such as me and other Palestinian in the diaspora, to stand up, to really come up and show up differently than what we've done previously. And I think it's really also for us to take our own responsibility as Palestinian to say this is enough. We've been like, waiting for the international community to save us, for Israel to stop. This is our role right now to take our determination in our own hand and make sure that it happens. And let it happen non-violently.
No, not only, Eva, I'm acting actually and advocating for a political vision because I do take seriously my position as a native. We the Palestinians, we argue that, or we claim that we are the indigenous people here in this space much more than the Israeli Jews. It's a long discussion, but and from this position, I do encourage always the Palestinians. I do from this very important indigenous, powerful position to take the agency and to offer for themselves and for the other from a very responsible and even ethical standing point to offer a solution for both of us, both people. And that's why actually I'm interested. It's a very powerful position, but it's also a selfish position. I'm interested much more. It's not about making peace and about loving the Israeli Jews. I do love some of them because they are my friends and colleagues, but it's not the standing point that actually shape my political activism. I do agree with you with a lot of points that you raised here, and I want to say a few words to elaborate more the idea of a land for all. So we actually, I do refer to the position of the people and their attachment and their needs, and we acknowledge, first of all, that both people claim a very strong belonging to this place, to this space from the Jordan to the sea as their homeland. And you know what? We offer them, okay, you can consider this place your homeland if you are Jewish, Israeli, or Palestinian, but let's stop struggling on this land and learn to share it. So we offer a new paradigm shift, moving from separation and partition of the land into sharing it. The second value or principle is equality, and here we don't speak only about the liberal notion of equality, but also the collective equality. And when we speak about collective equality, and since we are speaking about two national groups, we think that both people need to agree about mutual right of self-determination in this place. And the last two important principles are recognition and reconciliation. It's not enough to do peace negotiations and to try to solve this conflict peacefully or speaking about specific arrangements. There is a much more deeper need for acknowledgement and recognition of the traumas of our own history, the Jewish history outside Palestine, and the Palestinian history and suffering and traumas since the Nakba. And that's why we don't really advocate for peace. Peace is important, but it's not enough. We need to start speaking about reconciliation with our past, and reconciliation as an approach that we have to build in each step when we speak about solving this conflict, in order to create a viable, peaceful solution. To translate all of these principles into a political model or practicalities, we speak about two states because both people, or the majority of the Israelis and the Palestinians, are still emphasize their need for a homeland. So political separation, yes, but everything beyond political separation in terms of two independent sovereign states will be shared. We share the economy, we share the natural resources, we share the water, we share the climate, and so on. And that's why we need to build shared institutions in order to manage and to deal with all of these shared issues. The second element that it's different from the classic two-state solution, as I said before that we are not speaking about separation. which is racist, but not only racist, it's not realistic. The two people are already intertwined. Their lives are already intertwined, and that's why we cannot speak about total partition and separation. And the third point, we offer new creative way to tackle the deadlocks of the classic two-state solution. For example, the issue of Jerusalem, settlements, the right of return of the Palestinian people, by creating a new model of residency and citizenship and open borders between the two states. And I know it's very sensitive to speak about open borders and security issues and safety issues now following October 7th and the war on Gaza and in the West Bank. It's not only a war on Gaza, but we are speaking about gradually practicalities and arrangements that can ensure freedom of movement and residency and citizenship between the two states. So these are mainly the practical aspects of the political solution that we offer that are based actually all the time on the principles and the values that I started a few minutes ago to tell about them.
Thank you, Rula. And something that stands out for me is, and I'm wondering your perspective about it, is the fact that you're a woman, and I think the co-director, the Israeli co-director, is also a woman. Yeah. Is there, and I guess it's a choice to have your faces as the representation of Land for All, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's we represent the new generation of a Land for All. The whole idea, the whole political vision was created by wonderful people from Palestine and Israel, journalists, activists, and scholars, and they still, all of them, involved in. But maybe the two main co-founders, Auni Al-Mashni and Meron Rappaport, are men, and they represent another generation of Israeli and Palestinian men. And now, two women from different generation, from different backgrounds, are leading or taking this political vision to another stage in the world and in Israel, Palestine. And I think it's something that we at Land for All can be proud of. Mm-hmm. It's not the very common thing to see women doing politics and speaking about politics and leading political organization. And in this case, it's also a new kind of organization. It's not another civil society organization. It's a political organization with a political agenda, very clear one. It's a bi-national organization, and it's a very difficult work. And it's cross-border. It's not only, a kind of bi-national or joint organization within Israel or in Israel between Palestinian and Jewish Israeli citizens. It's a cross-border of Palestinians, and sometimes we cannot even meet, or actually since October 7th, it's very hard to meet because the Israelis are not allowed to enter the West Bank. And people from the West Bank are denied any permission of moving to Israel or visiting Israel since October 7th. So there are a lot of complexities, and I think we are doing very well. And the new leadership of this organization, the woman leadership, will actually show a new, very successful, ambitious model of leadership
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that this is, I want to say, Women Will End the War. That's really the title of our podcast, Women Ending War.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I've seen it in Liberia when I was working with the Liberian women movement. And it's not about only the fact of being a woman, but it's bringing a different approach that hasn't been tried up until now. And I remember when I was working with Ellen, the president became a president of Liberia. She managed to gather so much support, not only from women, but from women and men. And I feel that's what Land for All is doing. So even though the faces are female, but it's engaging the whole part of societies. And I
Yeah,
don't know,
sure. We are not a woman organization.
yeah,
or
exactly. Yeah.
No, we are a political organization with majority of men actually, but the leadership are women, and
And
yeah,
that brings a different perspective, I think.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if we have some time, but I would love to, because you said it's hard to meet, but you're moving between Ramallah and Haifa. How are you doing it? Because as an Israeli citizen, you're not supposed to be traveling between to the West Bank. Or
I still have the freedom to move and even to live in Ramallah. I'm practicing already our political vision.
exactly, that's what I want to hear more about. Because as a Palestinian with an Israeli citizenship, you actually have I want to say right now, the luxury
Yeah.
of moving between the two states, something that for people outside, they cannot even imagine.
Yeah, no, I do have a kind. I
Can you
don't.
articulate? Yes. Can you speak a bit about
I'm not sure that it's a privilege. Maybe it's a privilege.
right now? I'm meaning right now.
Yeah, right now, it's doable. It's
Exactly.
much harder to move and to go out the West Bank toward Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Haifa because of the checkpoints, because the majority of the checkpoints are closed now since October 7th. The Israeli government and the Israeli army decided to close the majority of the checkpoints where usually Palestinian people could move within their territories. We are not speaking to move to Israel, because the Palestinian people in the West Bank, they are not allowed to move freely to Israel unless they have a specific permission, working permission, or healthcare and permission in specific cases. But since October 7th, actually, even all of these permissions were stopped by the Israelis, and because of the argument of security of the Israeli people, the Israeli army decided to close the majority of the checkpoints. In this sense, I still enjoy, being an Israeli citizen, that I can. I don't need the permission to come to Israel from the West Bank. That's why I can actually drive through any checkpoint. The problem is that because the majority of the checkpoints are closed and people need to move between the cities and the villages in the West Bank, and they have to move near all of these checkpoints and in different streets, it became it created a lot of chaos and a lot of traffic. Sometimes the drive from my apartment in Ramallah to my work in Jerusalem can last between, and we are speaking about 15 to 20 kilometers, can last because of the checkpoints 2 hours, 3 hours, which is crazy actually. Yeah, so life in the West Bank in general, because of all of these restrictions and because of the violence of the settlers, became actually much more difficult and dangerous and frustrating. Not that life has been much better before October 7th, but now during the last
exacerbated it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Rula. I know we're arriving to the end of our time. I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart, and Ilana as well, for sharing your vision, for acting on your vision, for really taking, I always say spirit meets us at the point of action, and it seems like you are definitely in line with that. So I'm really excited about your initiative, looking forward also for potential collaboration with Peace Activation as we discussed, and we will certainly be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.